Hello and welcome to Talking Golf with Gary. This week, the dynamic Gary will introduce you to all kinds of topics pertinent to this past week of golf. He'll give you some tidbits of information as what's coming up and take you on a tour around the world for all of the golfing highlights. Sit back and enjoy Talking Golf with Gary.
Joining me today is James Hong. He is the Director of Instruction at Harbor Links Golf Course in Port Washington, New York. You think I could pronounce it? I'm only on the other shore from you, and I still can't. And I used to work up there. He's Director of Golf Junior Program there, and a youth golf mentor and a leader. And James, welcome to Talking Golf with Gary.
Thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it.
So, James, tell me, how did you get started in golf way back when?
Well, when I was really young, probably about like 9, 10 years old, that's, it's a typical story. My dad used to play. And so he would start to show me how to play. And it was a great way to spend some time with him, especially on Friday afternoons. He was a college professor, so he basically was done with his job by 1 o'clock on Fridays. So he would pick me up from school and we would go out and play at one of the local golf courses. And, in the summertime, we would do that every week. So it was a great time. And it was a lot of fun. It was kind of funny because at first I didn't like it. I hated it. I remember back then it was like Persimmon Woods and it's like you didn't see kids playing. It was all old guys on the golf course. So I hated it. And the reason why I started getting into it is because one of my best friends we were hanging out one day and he saw my dad swinging a golf club and he started asking him and he got really curious about it. And so I guess it was more jealousy than anything. So I started kind of, hey, my dad's spending more time with my best friend than he is with me. So let me kind of get more involved. And then I just got hooked after that.
And did you always want to teach or was there some tour aspirations in there when you were younger?
No, it wasn't like tour aspirations or something like that. I always enjoyed playing different sports. I played a lot of sports when I was growing up. And what seemed to happen is that I seemed to just have an affinity, so to speak, for coaching or teaching. And that just seemed to happen from as far back as I can remember. I remember being in like some summer camp and we were playing softball and no one wants to play catcher. Everyone always wants to be some other position. And I wanted to be catcher. And the gym teacher always looked at me like, why does this kid want to be catcher? And I wanted to be catcher because I had always heard that the catcher is sort of like the captain or another coach on the field. And I always liked to do that. So I would be the freaking moronic kid behind the plate, like the 8-year-old kid telling all the kids what to do. You should be over there. You should be doing that. You should be doing that. And that's burned in my memory. And it's like that just seemed to be the first time I can remember doing something like that. And as I grew up and played other sports, that was always the case. It was one of those weird things where I was always kind of helping either my teammates out. And weirdly enough, we would be in some competition and I was actually helping guys out on the other teams. And it was just one of those things. I just felt this need to want to help people. Like I would see something like, hey, I saw you doing this. I don't know if you knew you were doing that, but you should be doing this. And guys would come over to me afterwards and say, hey, thanks a lot. That really helped a lot. And, like I said, that's been happening since I was a kid.
Well, I was a catcher also, so though I'm paying for it now at 66 years old. My knees are shot, and I have one replaced already, and the other one's ready to go. So it's going to be a little tough this year playing golf, but we'll try to do it anyway. But now we mentioned that you were director of the junior golf program there, and you are very big in U.S. junior golf. How did that get started?
Well, what happened was I was working at this driving range, this local driving range, and I worked in the pro shop. And we were doing this kind of special of if you buy a set of irons, you get a free half-hour lesson. If you buy a driver, you get a free 15-minute lesson thing. And what would happen, though, is that the instructors that were on staff there didn't want to give the lessons because they weren't getting paid for it. It was all part of the sale. So they the guy who was the head instructor at the time was a good friend of mine. He just said, well, he knew about, we'd been friends for a while, so he knew that I was kind of into coaching or something like that. And he goes, well, just give him all to James. He'll do them. So I said, sure, no problem. And what I started getting was people would come for lessons, but they would say sometimes, I don't really need the lesson. Could you actually help my kid out? So I would help the kids out. I didn't mind doing that, and it was a lot of fun. And then I started working at another range, and they would do junior camps on Saturday mornings, but none of the instructors either wanted to do it or they were busy with private lessons. So I just started doing them, and it just started to grow from there. And then I moved to another golf course, and the guy there had a pretty substantial junior program, and he kind of like dropped it all in my lap and said, you take care of it, you're in charge of it now. And it just kind of built one on top of the other from that.
And I guess it's at some point in time it can be more interesting with the juniors than adults, because I think we adults have things ingrained in us that perhaps the kids don't quite have yet.
Yeah, and to a certain extent that's true. But I think what also happens is you get a lot of kids who were initially taught by those same adults with ingrained habits.
This is true.
So what happens is regardless of whether it's adults or it's juniors, you're probably at some point trying to break those habits to begin with. And I know with a lot of kids that come to me for the first couple of times, one of the first things I ask them is did your dad or somebody, did your grandfather, did your uncle kind of show you give you your first couple of lessons? And they'd go, yeah. And I'd say, so let me guess, they told you to keep your head down, they told you to keep your left arm straight, they told you to do this, and they'd nod their head.
Yeah.
And I'd say, okay, let's start with that, and go from there. And of course, you have to be careful with what you say. You don't want to make it sound like their dad is an idiot, right? So I don't say like, well, that's all wrong, that's bad. I would just say, okay, so you've heard that before. This might be a better way to do it. Mm-hmm. Or I might even say, your dad meant well when he said that. What he was really trying to say was this. Mm-hmm. And then kind of transition to that. Yeah. But with adults, I think that what's really important is understanding how people learn, how people understand things better. So what you're probably doing with adults that have ingrained habits is not so much try to break the habits right off the bat, but maybe take those things and refine them, slowly break them down or change them. Mm-hmm. So it's an ongoing process, little by little by little. So if someone has a chicken wing, you may not be able to get rid of the chicken wing in that one lesson, but maybe what you're doing is you're working around that chicken wing so that it gradually dissipates, and then next thing you know, it's not there anymore. Mm-hmm. Maybe after a little while.
With there are so many different styles out there and methods of teaching. It really, I've mentioned this before on this show to other instructors that I think I'm a high handicap. I haven't played in a lot of years. I had a weight problem. I've just lost 87 pounds so far, and I'm going down
really?
more. Yeah. And I got my my golf bug again, so I'm getting back into the game after laying off for a couple of years, and but I think we read so much and we hear so much, and I think sometimes I went to play once last October, and I found myself at times just not knowing what to do. I was just kind of like. And then I said, the next hole, I'm not even going to think about it. I'm just going to get up there and smack the ball and actually hit a better shot. Why do we do that? I mean, is that human nature? It's like paralysis by analysis.
Yeah, definitely it's paralysis by analysis. And I think what both the good and the bad about golf instruction is that I think more so than just about any other sport, we as teachers get really involved in how the body is moving, what do good players do, what separates them from the average player. Is it something that they do that everyone else doesn't do, that if we taught the average player that, they would be better? And so we really get involved. Now it's everything from 3D swing analysis, understanding the biomechanics of the human body, how it moves in the golf swing, what forces are being applied. You don't really hear about that in other sports.
Right.
Yet at the same time, other sports like baseball are starting to turn to golf to see how we've done things in the past so that they can improve their players. So, like I said, it's a good and a bad, and I think it is paralysis by analysis sometimes. Mm-hmm. It's like, I use the example with all of my students. It's when you walk. You don't think about what your heel is doing, what your toe is doing. When do you push off the ground versus landing? You don't think about what part of your foot is landing on the ground first. Right. And so, I was in Japan about a month ago, and I did a little experiment where I showed some of the teachers there. I had a person walk towards me, and I said, when you walk towards me, I want you to walk like this. Put your heel. I told them specific examples of how to walk. And I said, now do it. And you could see they were kind of walking like a robot, thinking about what to do. And then I said, now, can you do me a favor? Can you just do this and walk towards me as you're doing it? And they were much more fluid. Mm-hmm. And what I pointed out to them was that I just told you to do the same thing. But what I did was took away all of that paralysis by analysis. Right. And so, I think you're right. Sometimes if you just tell someone, hey, just swing to the finish, that might be a tip for some people. Just finish your swing, get to the finish. I know it's overly simplistic, but for the right person, that might be the best thing that they could hear.
Well, and I think it's almost like a new wave of teaching. It's probably been going on for a number of years now, but I think you as an instructor now are trying to, instead of insisting on fitting somebody into a system, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think the new trend seems to be to try to not fit people into a system, but almost to fit a system into a. I'm not explaining this right at all.
No, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I think you're making a very good point there, and so the what I would say is what used to be in the past was that we always thought that if you were going to do it correctly, it was this way. Meaning, it might be something like, well, halfway down in your downswing, your left arm has to be here, and the club has to be there. And if there was any deviation, you were bad, you were wrong, and that was the reason why you couldn't play better. Mm-hmm. And what's happened now is that within systems, is that you can have parameters now. So it isn't an ideal situation. To be technical about it, it's like, well, you don't have to have 23 degrees of this. And that's correct. Mm-hmm. If you're 25 degrees, you're bad.
Right.
Right? Now it's like, well, yeah, I mean, you might use the Tor average and say it's 23 degrees, but 23 degrees means you could be as much as 30, means you could be as much as 15. So there's a whole border there. There's a whole area that you can be somewhere in. And so sometimes when someone uses the terminology or uses the term swing your swing, that doesn't mean just do whatever you want. It means within these certain parameters, whatever fits, whatever is you within those parameters is going to work, right? So, a lot of times, like something like stack and tilt gets stuck into this. Oh, they all want their players to be like this. That's not true at all. I mean, I remember speaking to Andy Plummer about this, and the one thing he said to me was, do you really think I make all of my players do this? It's like, obviously not. He goes, one of the big things about stack and tilt is what the trail knee is doing, right? Mm-hmm. And he goes, do you really think I make all of my players do exactly the same thing with their knees? Of course not. They're human beings. Some people do it more, some people do it less, and I, as the teacher, have to recognize that for their best performance. Mm-hmm. And that goes back to what I was saying is we tend to think that we're supposed to be exactly this way and no other way. Yeah.
But I think what happens with especially like I said with a high handicapper like myself, I think is you pick up the book or you read an article and naturally the instructor is explaining what he's thinking about in the book. but we almost take it like gospel, and you know, and then we're trying to put our knee in that position, you know, and I think that's where we think it out too much or take everything as gospel. Whereas if you can go to an instructor, he'll say, okay, you can't do that. Maybe your physical capabilities aren't there, whether it be age and arthritis or whatever. And but I think sometimes that gets lost in a book setting or whatever, you know.
And that's definitely the case. And I think that's why, bottom line, you know, a lot of times there seems to be this thought that people are moving away from golf instruction. And it's not that you have to sign up for 53 lessons, but if you sign up for a handful of lessons, and again, another thing, let's say you get 5 lessons. That doesn't mean you have to use all 5 within the month. Mm-hmm. Maybe you use only 1 for the month. Maybe you use all 5 in a week. It's really based on what you feel is necessary for you, and like what you're looking for in your instruction. But you definitely cannot be doing it on your own. And you know, even some of these online platforms nowadays where people are just trying to see if they could save money. I think where a lot of this comes from is not just the fact that time is being consumed. People have less and less free time to do these things, but maybe people are not seeing the value in the dollar that they're spending anymore. So if it is like $100 for a lesson and you take that lesson and then at the end of the lesson you feel like, well, geez, I could have done that. I didn't have to pay this guy $100. You know what it always reminds me of is I remember watching a guy in my house installing doors. We were doing some renovation, and I watched him install the door, and I'm thinking, I just paid this guy, whatever it was, $50 to install this $200 door. And I could have gone to Home Depot, bought the same door for $50 and done it myself for free. So I think sometimes people feel that way. So yeah. Again, it's the quality of instruction. What is it focused on? Getting your value for that. But definitely you need lessons.
And I think sometimes too, I think that the cost of golf in all the peripheries is sort of expensive, you know? It's tough. I mean, I know I could use an upgrade in some of my clubs but you know, I just retired. I don't have $400 or $500 to get a new driver,
right?
And it can be a little ridiculous. So I mean, I got a couple good deals on Callaway pre-owned.
Oh yeah,
It's not a plug, but it's an older club. But I have to tell you, it looks like it's brand new. It's in excellent condition, and you know, I haven't had a chance to hit it yet. You know, the weather hasn't been the best, though the last couple of days have been good. Oh, okay. But I don't get do you get the club from them, or you get a discount at the pro shop? That's what it is.
It's yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. Sometimes the prices can be astounding for what you're doing. And also, you want to look at it in terms of the business side of it, and that who is the clientele they're targeting. Mm-hmm. And it's no insult if it turns out you're going to some fitting place and they charge $500 for a club fitting, plus you have to buy the clubs from them. That's their clientele. That's the people that they're marketing. Right, and if you and I don't fit in that, we can find something that will work for us. We just have to kind of do a little Googling or whatever it is to find it, mm-hmm. where it's like, oh, let's say it's $100 for a fitting, but if you buy the clubs, then the $100 will go towards the purchase of the clubs.
Right.
That's okay. I think what I just mentioned with the lessons, though, is just making sure that in those kind of places, is the quality of fitting going to suit you, right? Or is it just somebody that read how to fit someone out of a book or something like that,
right? Mm-hmm.
Right? Or on a one-page sheet on how to fit somebody, and therefore you may be only paying a certain amount of dollars for it, but you're really getting less than that dollar value. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. So I'd rather that it be someone who knows what they're doing, and you can purchase the clubs from them.
How big is fitting nowadays? I mean, we hear a lot about it, and how important is it to get fitted for everybody?
I think it's really important to get fitted. And what happens is you may not get fitted for your entire set of clubs. It may be that you're only getting fitted for your driver, or maybe you're only getting fitted for your irons. And also remember, these days, the way things are, a full set of irons is no longer 3-iron to pitching wedge.
Right, yeah.
You may only have 6-iron, 7-iron, 8-iron, 9-iron pitching wedge. So you have 5 or 4 clubs, right?
That's me.
And so you may only need to be fitted for those 4 or 5 clubs rather than an entire set. But definitely, and I know some people say, well, I'm not good enough to get fitted, or I've only been playing for a year, or I'm just a beginner. And it's still important for you to get fitted. Do you need a $500 fitting? No. But you definitely should get fitted for your clubs. And nowadays, good teachers will spot where the equipment might be hindering your progress and make adjustments if necessary. Like, I know sometimes when I see my students, their ball flight is kind of a little bit all over the place, I'll check to see if the lie angles are good, stuff like that. And if it turns out not, I have a loft and lie machine here, and if the clubs can be bent, I'll just bend it for them. And I don't charge them like $30 a club. I just say, yeah, I think this will make you better. This is part of your lesson.
Right. So, give us a little bit of an idea of what the director of instruction does on a daily basis. Years ago, used to be the head pro. Is it still that idea, or has it changed? It's evolved into a more structure, I think, nowadays than in years past.
Right.
Are you still in charge of the pro shop? Is that part of your duties?
Right.
Just give us an idea.
Well, the director of instruction, my responsibilities here are simply just the instruction part.
Okay.
Right. Overseeing the instructors, the staff, the teaching staff, developing programs. And that's really all I'm responsible for, nothing else. And that's kind of what I wanted. And so the head professional, depending on where you work, that might be part of their responsibilities. Right. For a lot of places, the head professional basically is like the general manager, where the instruction part is just one of their numerous responsibilities. So here, that's the way it is, where we have a general manager who would be considered the head professional at, let's say, a private club. Some clubs actually have both. They have a general manager and they have a head professional. And then the way the pyramid works is they would be at the top, and then underneath would be people that report to them. So, for instance, there might be a director of instruction like me. There might be a director of golf. That might be director of golf operations. For instance, here we have a director of inside operations, and we have a director of outside operations. Right. So our outside operations means the carts for the golf course, the practice range, the facility here, stuff like that.
And how long have you been at Harbor Links now?
I think this is my 15th year here. It's either 15 or it's 16. I'm not 100% sure.
Close enough.
It's something like that, yeah.
It's a beautiful course. I've never played it. I have, however, been at an event there. So I did get a look at it. It is a beautiful course, and it's a public course. I understand it's open to the public.
Yes, yep, it's a public course. It's owned by the town of North Hempstead. We're located in Port Washington, right next to Roslyn, and so yeah, it's open to the public. And if you're a resident of North Hempstead, there's a resident discount, and obviously everyone outside of that, there's a different rate. There's a higher rate because we got to make money. But yeah, definitely, it's a great place to play. It's a beautiful golf course, and people enjoy coming out here. It looks easy. It's different because it's a link style course, so people don't see a lot of trees, and they're kind of like, and they come back like 4 or 5 hours later, going, "Whoa, that was tough."
Well, a quick story. Years ago, I went to. I used to work at a job in Glen Cove, and
Right.
we'd work Saturday sometimes, and sometimes we'd say, "Hey, you want to play golf? It's gonna be a nice day. Let's go play." And we went out to Bethpage to play, and that was before the renovations on the black course, but it was still not a good, not an easy course.
Right.
And so we get out there, and the guy said, "Well, there's an hour wait here, there's a half hour wait here, but you can go right off on the black course." We said, what the heck? Let's go, So we went, and you get to the first hole there, and I'm sure you played it, and you know that the first course is pretty wide open. The first hole, I should say. You look out, and you're like, wow, this is a nice big fairway. Then, well, I hit it. I don't know. I was over way in the right, which was, in the rough. It wasn't so much rough then because it was before the Open and everything. Now, with the Open and the PGA going to be out there. And I think by the fourth hole, we were exhausted and looking for a ride back to the clubhouse. And our scores we needed a calculator to add them up just through the first four holes. But we continued on. I think we got 9 in and didn't even bother adding up the scores. But that's like you say, it looks easy because there's no trees and stuff, but it can be very deceptive.
It's true. I remember I played there after the renovations the first time I played there, and on the fourth hole, because all you'd heard about was how long it is.
Mm-hmm.
It was already long, and then they made it longer for the pros. Yeah. And I remember standing there on the fourth tee looking out and going, yeah, that's pretty long, but it's not too bad. I don't know what they were talking about. And the guy I was playing with, no, these ain't the pro tees. Those are the pro tees. And I remember I went like this going, wow.
Where?
I'm probably exaggerating, but it looked like it was about another 80 yards back. And I was like, oh my God.
It is amazing when they do play a course that you play on, and then you realize that they're so much farther back, and it's just crazy. But so, talk to us a little bit about the 555 program.
Well, that's a program that I started here a few years ago, and the whole point of it is just finding what's the 5 situations that you find yourself in, or most golfers find themselves in, that cost them strokes. And then work on those 5 scenarios. What shot or what variety of shots can you get out of that scenario that could probably save you 1 shot in that situation? So if you take 5 shots and learn how to hit them, that should conceivably save you a minimum of 5 shots around. Because instead of, let's say, getting it on the green or not even getting it on the green and then having another shot to get it on the green, and then 2 putting or 3 putting, and you're getting a 5 from, let's say, the green side bunker, maybe it's get it out in 1 and 2 putt, and now you've gotten a 3 from 40 yards, and now you just saved yourself 2 shots. And if that happens, if those 5 scenarios only happen to you once around, but you manage to extricate yourself out 1 shot less, that was the whole theory behind it. It saves you 5 shots.
Mm-hmm. And in your instruction, what is the most common problem that you think you see from a lot of high handicappers?
Too high expectations. They're just not aware of a better opportunity or a better scenario. So one of the things that I bring up, for instance, is if your ball flight tends to go a certain way, why aren't you playing that? Mm-hmm. So, most golfers slice. They hit the ball left to right, or they fade it. Mm-hmm. So I watch them on the golf course, or I watch them on the range preparing, and they'll tee up their driver in the middle of the tee box, or even on the left side of the tee box, and then they aim at the center of the fairway.
Right.
It's like, well, what do you hit? Well, I hit this slice, or I hit this fade, and I see it, and it's like, is that indicative of what you do? Oh, I do that all the time. That's why I'm always in the right trees. And you look at it, and it's like maybe like a 20 or 30 yard slice. which isn't too bad,
Right.
right, for the average golfer. But they're aiming at the middle of the fairway, and a fairway itself is about 40 yards wide. So if you're aiming at the middle and you slice it 20 yards, you're already saying I'm going to be in the rough.
Right.
Right. So if I tell them, why don't you just tee up on the right side of the tee box, aim to the left side of the fairway, and then just hit your shot, and then they hit it in, it's like more fairways hit. Better scenario. So sometimes it's just those kind of things. I didn't change a thing in their swing, but I changed what their perspective was in terms of course management.
I have to tell you, I used to slice. Now I can't slice the darn thing, but I I must be weird. Somebody had told me that years ago, and I would play to the left, and wouldn't you know it, that's when I hit the straight shot.
Then you hit it straight. You know what that is? To me, my opinion, I don't have any data to back this up, but my opinion is that the moment you recognize that I should aim left, right, you are already in a positive corrective mode mentally. So what happened is you just overcorrected, because the correction would be, well, let me just aim left. And then what you did is, let me guarantee that I go left. So in theory, what you did is actually changed your club inherently. So you double corrected, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's real hard for people. It sounds easy when I say it, but it's real hard to say, well, you know what? Why don't you just aim more left and then just hit the ball? What you will do mentally is I'm going to aim left, but since I'm aiming left, let me guarantee I hit it left.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so tell me, I think we have a clue to what's in your bag as far as a driver goes. But what is in James Hong's bag?
Well, actually, I just got my clubs a couple of weeks ago, so I'm still getting used to them. And so I'm on Callaway staff, so I have the new Epic Flash Sub-Zero driver. I also have the Epic Flash 3-wood, which is people are going to have a lot of fun with that club.
Yeah.
I've already had some fun with some friends here, and I've got the 18-degree utility iron, the Callaway X Forge utility iron. I've got the Apex irons, the new Apex irons in the 4-iron and the 5-iron. And then from the 6 to the pitching wedge, I have the Apex Pros. Yeah. And then I have their Mac Daddy wedges, 50, 54, and 60.
And the putter? Is it an Odyssey putter?
No, actually, I have an Edel putter. And I was, like a lot of people, I was a putter whore for years. I mean, I'd probably get 3-4 putters a year. And one year I just got fitted by the local rep for an Edel putter. And that's been in my bag ever since. And I think it's now going on 6 years. So it's really hard to find something that will take that club out of my bag.
And what ball are you using currently?
I go back and forth. Between a Callaway Chrome Soft X and a Titleist Pro V1X.
Okay. Ideal foursome, if you could play with anybody alive or past.
I know I'm bailing out on this. I have 2 of them.
That's fine.
And one of them is more, like a tearjerker. I mean, one of them is my 2 sons, and my dad. And, my dad's passed away years ago. So, but that, you're talking, like you said, dream foursome. It would be the 3 of them.
Right.
Along with me. And then the other one, more kind of like, if you're talking about stars, I'd play with Seve, Fred Couples, and then the 4th person in our foursome, I would like to see somebody in there that's totally different, just to spice up the conversation. It might be someone like I'm just going to throw out a name. It might be someone like an Albert Einstein.
Oh, that is different.
Right? Or it might be a musician. It might be someone like a John Lennon. Mm-hmm. But something just totally different.
Okay.
Because what I want is I want to see those 2 guys turn into fans.
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Well, very interesting. This has been a blast. I've really enjoyed it, and I hope you've enjoyed it as well. And I hope we can do it again sometime. And maybe we'll do it from the veranda overlooking the golf course at Harbor Links the next time.
Yeah, definitely. That you're more than welcome to come on by here. Appreciate having me.
All right. Thank you so much, James. And we'll be back right after this.
Baseball and BBQ, your place for interesting baseball talk, opinions, and history.
Baseball and BBQ, your place for barbecue recipes, tips, and interviews from the world of barbecue. If you like baseball and if you like barbecue, then tune in to Baseball and BBQ. Find us on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and BaseballTalkRadio.com.
And we're back. And let's take a look at the week's action in the world of golf, as Paul Casey again went home with the championships trophy on Sunday evening at the Valspar Championship, mostly because they could not give it to the golf course because the golf course was beating everybody up. All credit to Casey for how hard he battled, but the arduous Copperhead course at Innisbrook Resort gave players everything they could handle and more, firming up to produce its toughest exam on a sunny Sunday just outside Tampa. Casey, 41, who became the first man in the event's 19-year history to repeat as champion, shot a 1 over 72, making a strong par from a fairway bunker at the last hole, and simply survived better than the rest. He finished 4 rounds at 8 under, which was a 276, and shot 1 better than Louis Oosthuizen and Jason Kokrak. On the European Tour, Scott Hand claimed his 3rd European Tour title in dramatic circumstances as he beat Nacho Elvira at the first playoff hole to win the weather-affected Maybank Championship. The 45-year-old Hand began the 4th round 3 shots behind overnight leader Elvira, but went in front courtesy of 5 birdies on the front 9 and remained ahead by 1 stroke as the final group arrived at the 18th tee. But there was late drama as the heavens opened with a clap of thunder on Elvira's backswing, disrupting his approach onto the 18th green just before play was suspended. That left the Spaniard with a 30-foot putt to keep his hopes alive, and when play resumed about 2 hours later, he coolly drained his birdie effort to join Hen at 15 under and force a playoff. Hen got a lucky break when his tee shot at the first extra hole hit the base of a tree and landed on the fairway, while Elvira's ball went straight into a fairway bunker. Hen hit another tree with his second shot, being like a pinball machine, but hold his birdie putt from 3 feet to clinch the title and banish memories of previous playoff defeats at the Omega European Masters in both 2016 and 2017. The victory is Hen's first since the 2016 True Thailand Classic presented by Chang, and takes him into the top 10 of the 2019 Race to Dubai rankings presented by Rolex. Elvira's runner-up finish was his second in as many starts after he ended the Commercial Bank Qatar Masters in a tie for second in his last outing. Jin Young Ko won for the first time in the United States on the LPGA Tour. The 23-year-old Ko closed with bogey-free rounds of 64 and 65 at Desert Ridge to rally for a 1-stroke victory on Sunday. She birdied numbers 14 and 16 and parred the final 2 to finish at 22 under 266. Then won when third-round leader Yu Liu missed a 15-foot par putt on the par 4 18th. Liu shot a 70 to tie for second with playing partner Carlotta Saganda and sisters Jessica and Nelly Korda. Saganda closed with a 69. Jessica Korda eagled the 2-part back 9 par 5s in a 64, and Nelly Korda shot a 66. A 10-time winner on the Korean Tour, Ko won the 2017 LPGA KEB Hana Bank Championship in South Korea to earn her LPGA Tour card and took the Women's Australian Open last year. She broke through in the U.S. on Sunday in the event that honors the 13 women who founded the LPGA Tour, a goal she said she thought about too much last year. Kaur has 3 top 3 finishes in 4 events this year. She was second behind Nelly Korda last month in her Australian title defense and was coming off a third-place tie 3 weeks ago in Singapore. Jessica Korda returned from a left forearm injury to make her first start of the season. She parred the last 2 holes, leaving a 20-footer an inch short on 17 and coming up well short on 18. Nelly Korda had her 5th straight top 10 finish to open the season. She also parred the final 2 holes. Top-ranked Sung Hoon Park faded after sharing the second round lead with Liu. The Singapore winner had weekend rounds of 69 and 72, tied for 14 at 15 under. Top-rated Sung Hoon Park faded after sharing the second round lead with Liu. The Singapore winner had weekend rounds of 69 and 72 to tie for 14th at 15 under. All right, I think it's time for a break, so let's take care of business, and we'll be back right after these massages.
Sponsor an ad on the podcast. Support our show and let people know about your business. Email us today.
516-362-0443. That is the Talking Golf hotline. If you've got a question, a comment, or want to leave a voicemail, say hi. That's the number to call, 516-362-0443. Or if you'd like to leave an email, you can email the show at talkinggolf@gmail.com.
Now it's time to do the calendar. Now it's time to do the calendar. Oh, hooray, let's sing the calendar. Now it's time to do the calendar.
Yes, sir. Rebob. It's time to do the calendar. And on the calendar for next week on the PGA Tour, we have the WGC Dell Technologies Match Play. That's a mouthful. Bubba Watson is defending champion there. That's also the main event on the European Tour as well. It's another WGC event, World Golf Championship. Also, the other tournament on the PGA Tour next week is the Corales Punta Cana Resort and Club Championship, and Bryce Garnett is defending his title on that one. On the Champions Tour, yes, the champions are in action next week. The Rapiscan Systems Classic, where Steve Stricker is the defending champion. And on the European Tour, we mentioned that they'll be the top names will be at the WGC Dell Technologies match play, but this is also the Hero Indian Open in India, of course, and Matt Wallace of England is the defending champion in that one. And the LPGA is in action as they will be playing the Kia Classic, and the defending champion is Yoon Hee Ji. Yoon Hee Ji. So that's the calendar for next week that we'll be reporting on. And that's going to wrap it up for this week's show. I hope you enjoy it. I want to thank my guest, James Hong, for taking the time to come on. And I want to thank all of you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, Spreaker, Google Play, Spotify, wherever you listen or watch the podcast. Hit the subscribe button. That helps me grow the show and extend to new listeners. And until next time, remember, as you walk down the fairway of life, you must smell the roses, for you only get to play one round. Have a great week, everybody. See you next time on another edition of Talking Golf with Gary.